October 2nd, 2025. A war treaty was signed in Pyongyang, not with ink but in silence. Two sides, two voices. One brutal ambition: breach Ukraine's defenses before winter. North Korea pledged 15,000 elite troops to Russia behind flashing green lights. Moscow promised weapons, radar, and strategic support in return for the troops. They believed no one was listening, but Kyiv's Horizon 12 system intercepted their whispers. The intercepted whispers turned into coordinates of doom for the invading forces. 15,000 soldiers, 120 armored vehicles, 80 artillery systems were identified. Ukraine's generals faced an impossible choice: wait, beg, or strike first. The answer came quickly: a swarm of drones and Neptune missiles. 220 drones built from plywood, fiberglass, and salvaged electronics. Backed by 15 R-360 Neptune missiles ready to strike. Can a swarm of $2,000 drones penetrate a multi-billion-dollar defense shield? How would Pyongyang react when firepower rained down from the sky? Let's find out. The stage is set for a high-stakes confrontation. 10 October 2 and 2025, Pyongyang, North Korea. Inside a dimly lit conference room, the atmosphere is tense. The only light comes from a flickering green lamp on a table covered with maps. Documents marked Top Secret Kursk Line reveal strategic plans. Outside, the night is quiet. Inside, history is being rewritten. A secure call connected Pyongyang to Smolensk and a Russian command post. North Korean envoys spoke in controlled whispers to Russian officers. Their words were coded, but the meaning was unmistakable: a pact of war. North Korea agreed to deploy 15,000 elite soldiers to the Ukrainian frontier, concentrating in fortified sectors along the Kursk-Belgrade axis, near Suja Ridge, Zelink Forward Zone, and Novopolishir Camp, less than 40 kilometers from the Ukrainian border. The night holds its breath as history is secretly rewritten. A secure line links Pyongyang to a Russian command post. North Korean envoys and Russian officers negotiate a pact. Their coded words reveal a clear intent: a pact of war. They will concentrate near Suja Ridge, Zelenk, and Novopolishir. These locations are less than 40 kilometers from the border. Their mission: break Ukraine's defenses before winter. They will strike hard and fast where the lines are thin. Russia will provide logistical corridors and precision munitions. Russia will also provide strategic weapons to Pyongyang. No signatures are needed. The silence seals the deal. 15,000 men, 120 vehicles, and 80 artillery systems massing. If this alliance holds, the balance of Europe could shift. Their whispers were not lost. Horizon 12 intercepted the transmission. Coordinates, voices, deployment schedules were recorded and analyzed. A red light blinked in Ukraine's military intelligence headquarters. The secret was no longer theirs. The echo of a dangerous plan. What will Ukraine do with this secret pact? 3:26 am, October 3, 2025, Kharkov, region Ukraine. Panic fills the Ukrainian Military Intelligence Center. Voices in Russian and Korean timestamps scrolling coordinates. The intercepted file: Horizon 12, intercept number 47. This is no small victory. The file is like an earthquake. What will Ukraine do about the secret pact between Moscow and Pyongyang? October 3, 2025, Ukrainian Military Intelligence Center in the Kharkov region. Panic filled the control room. Monitors cast a blue glow on sleepless faces. A sharp, grainy recording filled the air, voices in Russian and Korean. Timestamps and coordinates scrolled across the main screen. Intercept Horizon 12. The intercepted file was tagged Horizon 12, intercept number 47. This was no small victory. The file was like an earthquake on a USB drive. Analysts rattled off numbers as if reading a death row. 15,000 foreign troops massing along the Kursk-Belgrade frontier. 3 forward bases identified within tens of kilometers of the border. 120 armored vehicles and 80 artillery systems staged for deployment. Fuel and ammunition convoys enough to sustain a campaign for months. Each figure fell into the silence like a stone. The emergency council met for less than 15 minutes. The generals presented 3 clear options to the council: wait and observe, escalate diplomatically, or strike immediately. The discussion was lively but tense. Waiting risked getting bogged down. Diplomacy risked delay and obfuscation. Action risked escalation. The situation was not transparent. Civilian lives were at stake. Words from Kyiv or Brussels could come too late. The armored columns drew closer. At 4:00 a.m., the decision was made. President Zelensky's Defense Council issued a call that would shape the century. Strike first. Ukrainian engineers mobilized under Project Ghost Wings. In 24 sleepless hours, 220 homemade UAVs were assembled. Salvaged electronics and 3D printed fuselages, each costing less than $2,000. 70 were equipped with electromagnetic jamming pods to blind radar. The next century of war demands a preemptive strike. each UAV costing less than $2,000, a cost-effective solution. Blinding radar, creating electronic chaos on the battlefield. 150 suicide drones armed with 20 kilograms warheads. Concrete piercing warheads designed for maximum damage. Supporting them 15 modified R-360 Neptune cruise missile, each carrying a 300 kilograms explosive core, a devastating payload. The plan was audacious, a coordinated aerial assault. First jammers create electronic chaos across the border. Then kamikaze drones rain down on North Korean barracks. Finally, Neptunes strike like thunder, finishing the swarm's work. By 4:45 p.m., the countdown was set, the plan in motion. Ukraine would not wait for the invasion. It would strike first. Kyiv will write the next chapter in the enemy's playbook, and it will be written in fire, a decisive counteroffensive. Would Ukraine's drone swarm rewrite the rules of war, or be crushed beneath 15000 North Korean boots? 5:10 a.m. October 4th, 2025, the hour of reckoning. The skies over Novopoli were unnaturally quiet. The false calm that always precedes disaster. 70 Ukrainian jamming drones rose like silent predators. Their mission to blind the battlefield, disrupt enemy radar. Each UAV carried a homemade electromagnetic warhead. Crude, cheap, deadly, a game-changing weapon. At 5:13 a.m., the first wave arrived, unleashing chaos. The entire electromagnetic spectrum collapsed in seconds. Systems designed to track hypersonic threats were neutralized. Radar screens went blank. Targeting arrays spun out of control. Operators screamed as ghost signals flooded the network. In 87 seconds, the area's defenses became a digital graveyard. Searchlights lit the sky, panic set in as defenses failed. Rebooted interceptors rushed blindly, a desperate attempt. More than 20 missiles fired, destroying dozens of drones. But the real attack had yet to begin, the swarm inbound. At exactly 5:19 a.m., it happened. The swarm descended. 150 suicide drones swarmed in from the south, flying in scattered swarms, a relentless assault. In seconds, the electromagnetic spectrum collapsed entirely. Russian S-500 and North Korean KN-6 systems were neutralized. Ghost signals flooded the network, chaos ensued. Panic set and rebooted interceptors rushed blindly. The attack was algorithmic, no central control. 9 strike groups targeted different segments of the base. The radar shaft shattered on impact, defenses weakened. Missile carriers and air defense units were set ablaze. 27 KN-6 launchers were destroyed in less than 180 seconds. The command vehicle was destroyed, mid-flight chaos. At 5:25 a.m., the sky opened with missile launches. 15 R-360 Neptune cruise missiles launched from artillery. Flying at Mach 0.8, they were virtually invisible. A 90,000-gallon fuel depot vaporized instantly. Ammunition bunkers exploded in a chain reaction. A food storage facility for 100,000 troops was lost. A barracks collapsed under the shockwave's pressure. By 5:50 a.m., the tri-border base burned to the ground. Communications were cut off, commanders were dead or missing. Operation Horizon 12. Commanders were dead or missing after the devastating strike. Over 9,800 North Korean troops were confirmed dead or wounded. 1,200 Russian advisors were missing in action after the attack. Equipment worth $1.2 billion was reduced to scrap metal. Smoke rose like tombstones, marking the devastation. Survivors stared in disbelief, overwhelmed by their own might. The silence that followed was heavier than the explosions. In Kyiv, the operation was officially named Horizon 12. The aftermath of this strike is more shocking than the attack. News of the disaster reached Moscow before the smoke cleared. Bases reduced to craters, Sudzha Ridge, Zelenk, Novopolya. Silence reigned inside Russia's Ministry of Defense. A joint force annihilated in under 40 minutes. Initial reports 11,000 North Korean casualties. 1,300 Russian soldiers dead or missing in action. 28 armored vehicles destroyed, ammunition depots erased. It wasn't just a tactical failure, but a global humiliation. Moscow's shield shattered by cheap drones and homemade missiles. Kremlin convened an emergency council at 7:30 a.m. Defense Minister Xu and Putin's inner circle arrived. The tone was clipped. Unacceptable exposure, repeated. 73% of North Korea's forward assets neutralized. Russia's corridor suffered a 35% degradation in radar coverage. By noon, the media machine was activated to control the narrative. State outlets labeled it a Western provocation. Moscow seethed, planning retaliatory cyber strikes. 73% of North Korea's forward assets were neutralized after the attack. Russia's radar coverage suffered a 35% degradation due to jamming. State outlets labeled the drone attack a Western provocation. European leaders urged restraint, but Moscow seethed behind closed doors. Retaliatory cyber strikes and troop movements were planned within hours. Harrowing images surfaced online, civilians fleeing firestorms. Emergency crews dug through collapsed hangars searching for survivors. Convoys of ambulances carried the wounded away from the front lines. The death toll climbed past 120,000 with over 19,000 displaced. NATO called for an emergency summit to address the crisis. Beijing withheld comment and Pyongyang's communications went silent. As night fell over Moscow, the city simmered with rage and silence. The question whispered through the corridors of power: what comes next? Over 11,000 troops killed or wounded. $1.2 billion in equipment destroyed. 3 fortified bases reduced to rubble in less than 40 minutes. A hybrid drone swarm breached advanced air defenses for $3,000 per unit,